Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. Certainly pleased to have everybody here tonight. Thank you. It is Monday, November 2nd, and the first thing we want to do is introduce you to your City Council.
Council members Kiley. Here. Rolfing.
Here.
Staggers.
Present.
Anderson.
Here.
Erickson. Here. Erpenbach. Here. Jameson.
Here.
Karski.
Here.
Thanks, Council. Appreciate that. In Sioux Falls, we start our council meetings with an invocation. And there's a man who has come here quite often to lead us in that invocation. Dr. Ron Tottingham of Empire Baptist Ministries is here again tonight. What we'd ask is that you stand for the invocation and then remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Ron, thank you for being here.
I want to thank you for your service for our city. I've been in 33 countries and all over the world. It's the best city in the world. And thank you for flattering me when I come. All of you. Not flattering. Well, I appreciate that. Our Father, thank you tonight for your blessings, giving us a city like you have and the people who have the kind of heart that they have, whether they're on one side of the pole or the other. They have an interest in this city and helping it be what it is. And I pray tonight that you'd bless them in a very special way. You put your hand on them, guide them, not just in the meetings here, but in their homes, their family lives, and all the things that have to kind of mesh together to give them the time and the single-mindedness to be in these meetings and make it work for the rest of us. I pray you'd bless them, bless our mayor, and bless the meeting tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Mayor. Welcome. Nice to have you. We've got Mayor Rick Noby back in the house. Nice to have you here, Mayor. A round of applause, please. We should do that. Is Stephen here, please, with pancreatic cancer awareness? Please, welcome, Stephen. Welcome. Please come forward. Would you introduce yourself to the people of our town?
Yeah, my name is Steve Yudwabnik. I am the advocacy chair for the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, which is countrywide. And a bunch of us, as advocacy chairs, we go to Washington, D.C. every June, and we advocate for additional funds for pancreatic cancer research. So I've been in John Thune's office, Mike Round's office, Christy Noem's office, and it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. But we're trying to bring awareness to pancreatic cancer being probably the most deadly cancer out there, and it's also the fastest growing cancer out there. So we're trying to get as many people aware of this and to get as many dollars towards research. And we've been doing pretty good lately, so it's we got a little bit of momentum building, so I hope we keep it going. And I am actually a 9-year pancreatic cancer survivor, which is
Stephen, thank you. Thank you. No, don't leave. You get up here. Stephen, and on your behalf, as the advocacy chair, as well as all the other folks that have been impacted by this, along with their families, I do have a proclamation I'd like to read.
Sure.
The proclamation reads, whereas in 2015, an estimated 48,960 people will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the United States, and 40,560 will die from the disease. Whereas pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest cancers, is the 4th leading cause of cancer death in the United States, and is the only major cancer with a 5-year relative survival rate in the single digits at just 7%. Whereas when symptoms of pancreatic cancer present themselves, it is a late stage, and 73% of pancreatic cancer patients die within the first year of their diagnosis, while 93% of pancreatic cancer patients die within the first 5 years. Whereas approximately 100 deaths will occur in South Dakota in 2015. Whereas the incidence and death rate for pancreatic cancer are increasing, and pancreatic cancer is anticipated to move from the fourth to the second leading cause of cancer death in the United States by 2020. Whereas the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network is a national organization serving the pancreatic cancer community in Sioux Falls and nationwide through a comprehensive approach that includes public policy, research funding, patient services, and public awareness and education related to developing effective treatments and a cure for pancreatic cancer. Whereas the good health and well-being of the residents of Sioux Falls are enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness, and that's why Stephen is here tonight, about pancreatic cancer and research into early detection, causes, and effective treatments. Whereas the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network and its affiliates in Sioux Falls support those patients currently battling pancreatic cancer, as well as to those who have lost their lives to the disease and are committed to nothing less than a cure. Now, therefore, I, Mike Huther, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim November 2015 as Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month in Sioux Falls. Stephen, thank you. We're blessed that you're here with us, leading the cause, making people aware. On behalf, let's give Stephen and this wonderful cause. Thank you. And I'd be remiss, I didn't see, we've not only have our honorable mayor back in the house, but we also have Representative Hersa Sandlin here as well. Representative, we'll give you a round of applause as well. Thank you. And there's all kinds of people in here I could pick out, but I'm going to leave now. I'm going to leave, but welcome, thank you. Council, thank you. We'll now move to our consent agenda. Any motions, changes?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Rolfing.
And a motion to approve our consent agenda tonight. It has been seconded. Any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Kiley,
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Thank you. That is passed 8-0. Now our regular agenda. Council, any motions or changes to that?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Rolfing.
There's been a motion to approve our agenda tonight. It has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Kiley,
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
That is also passed 8-0. Thank you. Again, welcome to tonight's council meeting. Certainly want to recognize all of you for being here. We really do appreciate it. We do have a packed agenda tonight. Now, if there's an item that's not on the agenda that you want to discuss with the council, now is the perfect time to do it. All we'd ask you to do is just come forward, introduce yourself to the people of our town, and the council wants the time limited to 5 minutes for that public input. And I will be a stickler on that. I've been asked by the council and vice chair to make sure that we do that. But please, welcome. It's good to have you here, and come forward, please. And Mayor Noby, would you introduce yourself to the people of our town?
Good evening, members of the council, mayor, citizens of Sioux Falls. My name is Rick Noby. I'm a resident of this community. For 10 years, from 1974 to 1984, I sat in the seats that you're sitting in. 10 years, over 520 city commission meetings, plus the other ones that you end up attending as part of your job. Great cities are judged by how they treat their infrastructure and how they treat their people. In Sioux Falls, I think we've done an excellent job, both in your stewardship and your time here and previous administrations, taking care of the infrastructure and taking care of the people of our community. I'm here tonight because a couple of weeks ago, 5 of you took an action in this meeting to cut off discussion and debate on an important public safety issue. That was an issue brought forth by a citizens group. It passed through your Public Services Committee, and it was here for a first reading. And then when the motion was made for a second reading, 5 of you chose to vote no. I wasn't at the meeting, and I confess I haven't watched the video of the meeting, so I don't know exactly what happened. But I understand that no comments were made by any of the 5 people as to why they chose not to approve the second reading of the ordinance. I'm disturbed by that. In my language on the radio station on Wednesday, it's Outrage Day. I'm shocked, appalled, distressed, disillusioned, and disappointed that you chose not to allow the citizens' input. I realize that you have many things on your plate. There's a lot of important issues facing you each and every day. I'm well aware of those, having sat in the chair. But in my mind, nothing's more important than spending the time to listen to people who come forth with ideas to make our city hopefully better, and in this case, safer. So I'm here tonight as a regular person, just asking you to go back and reconsider the vote that you took a couple of weeks ago. We're all entitled to making an error in judgment. We're all entitled to thinking it over again and saying, you know, if I had to do that again, I think I'd do it differently. I'm asking you to consider that tonight, either in this meeting or in a future meeting. Give this issue about cell phone usage while driving the streets a chance to be heard in our community. I realize that there are people across the state of South Dakota, some of them elected officials, that don't want Sioux Falls to even talk about this subject matter. They're entitled to their opinion. The 8 of you have been elected by us to do our work. And there are citizens here that hope that you will listen to them as they propose an idea that could make and probably will make our streets safer if you're willing to listen and take action. Mr. Mayor, member of the council, thank you very much.
Mayor Noby, thank you. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Well, thank you very much. We appreciate. Welcome, folks. This close, come on up. Anybody else, just come on up, please. Welcome. It's good to have you here.
I didn't know if anyone was going to speak or not. My name is Dwayne Anderson, and I've sat where the city attorney sits many times when Mayor Noby was our mayor. I just want to take a minute to put it in a little different perspective. I know you all know the arguments. You've heard them all, and there aren't many left to be made, but there is the question of consideration. And I'm going to ask you to move forward and take some action. We know that no action is action. And I'm reminded in hearing all the discussions about it of the comment that's made so many times. It's better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. So I'm asking you to please do that. Light one candle so that the issue is fully aired and people can decide what's best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Mr. Anderson. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dick Sabers. I'm a semi-retired Supreme Court Justice, and I just would like you to consider something about whether or not you should reconsider our proposal. At 60 miles an hour, a car travels 5,280 feet in 1 minute or 60 seconds. At the same speed, it travels 88 feet per second. At 30 miles an hour, the standard speed in City of Sioux Falls, a car travels at 44 feet per second. If it takes 4 seconds to call or receive a cell phone call, that's 176 feet, or over 1/2 of a football field, or more than 1/2 of a 330-foot city block. If there's an oncoming car at the same speed, these two vehicles could crash in 2 seconds because together they would travel at 352 feet per 2 seconds. If they meet at that speed, it may only take 1 second of inattention to hit head-on if one car goes over the center line because they are less than 10 foot apart. So I have nothing other to say than that, except I think it deserves your reconsideration. Thank you.
Justice Sabers, thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate that.
You bet.
Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I so appreciate government and our city government and all that you do for our city. I mean, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. I really appreciate that. And I just want to add my...
Would you please just introduce yourself?
Sandy Jurstead.
Thank you, Sandy.
Just wanted to add my support to the people who have already spoken. I just want you to think about all the children in our city. Maybe some of you have children, you're younger, sitting next to a young man over here who's just a real cutie. Children like that, or maybe you have grandchildren. And just think about those people. And all it takes is 1 second of looking down, of looking away. And, you know, I'm going to be truthful. In the past, I have definitely looked at my phone times. I don't ever text because I'm way too slow at that while I'm driving. But you know what? I've made a pledge to myself. Never again. Never. Not at stop signs, not at ever. Never again. Not going to do it. It just takes 1 second. So I'd like you to take a few seconds too, and again, to just please, you know, listen to the people and think about it before you make a final decision on this. Thanks so much.
Sandy, thank you, and thanks for your public service as well. We appreciate that. Folks, anybody else? Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Stephanie Herseth-Sandlin, and I'm General Counsel and Vice President of Corporate Development for Raven Industries. I would like to add to the support already expressed this evening, my support as well, urging you to reconsider the prior action, in large measure because I think it gives an opportunity for businesses like Raven Industries to share additional information about the rationale for why our company, among others I know in this community, have adopted corporate policies that should anyone be issued a handheld device by the company, or if you're driving on company time, that you're prohibited from using your handheld device unless you have a hands-free technology in doing so. There's been a lot of discussion and debate, I know, in other communities across South Dakota, but as someone who's proud to call Sioux Falls my home for the past 3 years, having grown up in rural South Dakota, in smaller communities as well as larger communities like Aberdeen and Brookings, people across the state look to Sioux Falls for leadership on these issues. Sometimes they don't like to acknowledge that the leadership comes from Sioux Falls. And having not been a resident here my whole life, I understand that sentiment at times as well. But I think it's important for the reasons expressed, and one of the reasons I did bring my young son tonight is because we have busy streets. We have a safe community. And we can take additional steps to make it safer for our children who observe their parents at a very early age and their driving habits. How they drive, what they're doing when they're driving, and when we allow our kids to drive at the age of 14, we need to start indoctrinating them at an early age about what's safe and what's not, what's acceptable and what's not. So I hope that you'll reconsider the prior decision. And thank you for the time this evening and for your service and sacrifices.
Representative Herseth-Sandlin, thank you very much. Folks, anybody else? Welcome.
A little intimidated following Supreme Court justices, mayors, representatives, so and I'm really mostly concerned because my 13-year-old son's here, and he said, "Dad, whatever you do, don't embarrass me." So I'll try to avoid that. My name's Matt Miller, and I guess I'll just borrow a phrase and say that it's really an inconvenient truth, isn't it, that cell phones and driving are as dangerous as drinking and driving. And it's inconvenient because, let's face it, all of us like to do it. Because in our rushed lives, we can take a couple of minutes, it's normally downtime, driving across town, and we can accomplish something quickly. But unfortunately, we put others in peril when we do that. So left to our own devices, we're probably going to go ahead and continue to do it, which presents, I think, the second inconvenient truth for all of you and people in positions of trust and authority, which is that is the kind of situation in which an ordinance or a law needs to be put into effect, in essence, to protect us from ourselves. Because most of us are law-abiding citizens, and if you all pass an ordinance and say, we think it's dangerous to talk on a cell phone and drive, and we prefer you not do that, and we might even give you a ticket, most of us will abide by that law. And so for all of you, you have an opportunity here, and I don't think it's an exaggeration to say to save lives, perhaps the lives of some of the young kids that we have here, and to certainly save a lot of injuries. But it is inconvenient because it causes controversy, and it's a difficult issue to wrestle through. And it requires us to try to, all of you to try to lead in an area that's sort of unfurrowed. Nobody else wants to take this on because all of us like to do it. And those are the kind of laws that are most difficult to address. So I thank you all for your service. I come here with the utmost respect and just hope that you will consider taking on this difficult issue, because I think it's important, and I think sooner or later we're going to have to address it, and I'd like to see all of you be able to take the lead and make us proud and make our city proud by getting out ahead of this public service, important public safety issue. So thank you for your time.
Matt, thank you. And your son's proud of you. Folks, good job. 2 thumbs up. Good job, son. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council on this topic or any other in our town? Well, thank you. We truly appreciate you being here tonight. We appreciate the comments. Oh, yeah, miss, please come forward.
Is it on a different topic or still?
Any topic you want, as long as it's not on the agenda later on. Okay, very good. Very good. Thank you. Folks, last call. Very good. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here tonight. Item number 23.
Item number 23 is a new 2015-16 retail malt beverage license for Sanford Frontier, Sanford Pentagon, 2210 West Pentagon Place, with special use permit 2013-1213 being approved on January 8th, 2014. 24 is a new 2015 retail wine license for Sanford Frontiers, Sanford Pentagon, 2210 West Pentagon Place, with special use permit 2013-1213 being approved on January 8th, 2014. Item 25 is a new 2015-16 retail malt beverage license for Hydra Beer Company, 2425 South Shirley Avenue, CUP not required, pending final inspections per building services. Item 26 is a new 2016 retail wine license for Hydra Beer Company, 2425 South Shirley Avenue, CUP not required, pending final inspections per building services. Item 27 is a special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for the Feisty Fighters to be operated at Landscape Garden Center, 7201 South Minnesota Avenue, for a fundraiser on November 12, 2015. Item 28 is a special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for the new Colossus to be operated at Chef to Plate, 1712 South Minnesota Avenue, for a fundraiser on November 4th, 2015. That's it.
Thank you very much. David.
Thank you, Mayor. Jamie is out this evening. Items 23 and 24 are so that Sanford Frontiers may sell beer and wine on Christmas Day for a Skyforce basketball game. Number 25 item is so that a tasting can occur of their products in a tasting room, and then also the others are then the special one-day permits.
David, thank you. Council?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve these items, seconded by Councilor Karski. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Kiley,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Erpenbach, yes, Jamison,
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 29.
Item 29 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending Chapter 38 of the Code of Ordinances of the city pertaining to elections.
Lori, welcome.
Thank you. Lori Hogstead, City Clerk for the City of Sioux Falls.
This is second reading tonight of our ordinance making proposed amendments to our Chapter 38 city elections. The changes proposed tie into the fact that in 2007, the campaign finance requirements were amended by the state of South Dakota, creating a new section entitled 1227. Previously, it was 1225, and so now we are using 1227. The ordinance presented before you removes all duplicate or verbatim sections of the state law from our city ordinances, so it would reduce our ordinance on elections from 40 sections down to 12. The city does have the ability to adopt the provisions of South Dakota Codified Law, Chapter 1227, without a verbatim adoption. We are, of course, keeping those sections that are unique to Sioux Falls, and those include a preamble, which is new, that we have added to the ordinance. Of course, we're keeping our section on the council districts, our election precincts, a requirement whereby anyone circulating a petition, initiative or referendum petition, would need to register that petition with our office. Definitions, because we do have some definitions that are a little bit different than from what the state may have. We're also keeping, the campaign finance deadline requirements. Again, some of our requirements are just a little bit different as they're set forth in our city charter, so we do need to keep that section. In addition, the 007 is for prosecution of violations by our Board of Ethics. 8 is access to records by the investigating authority, and 9 ties into that confidentiality of our records. 10 establishes our council positions. 11 discusses our election results, and then our Chapter 999 is the penalty chapter. And the other area that we are proposing to do in the future, if this does pass, yet this year, of course, is by separate ordinance, the City Council would adopt our campaign finance requirements as part of our campaign election booklet that would go to the candidates. And that would be something that we would start at this point in time and do that in the future prior to each election. And that would include, all of the state laws pertinent to elections, our city ordinances, the different campaign finance reporting statements and requirements, information on signage, anything and everything, petitions, nominating petitions, the whole packet that when all of you ran that you received our big packet of information. And that would all be included within this adoption of the ordinance of our election packet. One section that I did want to point out that we did delete, because what we're trying to do is to adopt the state law verbatim, the verbatim sections, but this section in our city ordinances, our section 38009 read differently than what the state law read. And the main change, and I worked on this chart a little bit to make it a little bit more understandable, because really there's 3 areas that can receive campaign contributions. One is a candidate or candidate campaign committee. Secondly, a ballot question committee. And third, a political action committee. And in our 2014 election, we had numerous ballot question committees and numerous political action committees that we worked with. There are a number of individuals that can actually give contributions to those 3 categories, including an individual or a person, a campaign or candidate committee, a ballot question committee, a political action committee, a political party, or an organization. And the different limitations are listed. The only 2 that are proposed to be changed are the 2 that are highlighted. And previously, a political action committee could give a limit of $5,000 to a candidate or candidate campaign committee, as well as a political party was limited to $5,000 to a committee. However, state law does show both of those as being unlimited. And if we are going to amend our ordinances to be in compliance with the state law, we would want to have those as unlimited. I will finish this out, and then if we have further questions on that, we can certainly address those. And really, that is the end of it. It was second reading tonight. If adopted, it would take effect 11/27/15, and then I would come back in December with the election booklet. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Lori, thank you very much. Before we go to the council, anybody in the audience want to speak to this item? Council?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Rolfing.
Been a motion to approve this item by Councilor Anderson Jr., seconded by Councilor Rolfing. Councilor Jamison.
Lori, on the unlimited contributions from the PAC, I've been through a couple of elections, and I think the unlimited part has a tendency to potentially change the way that elections are done locally. I get the idea that you're trying to mirror all of this with the state law, and that makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. I just got to say that with an unlimited amount, somebody could literally fund a campaign. Now that all comes out later, and the candidate would have to explain that and probably have to do the dance of some sort of why that was okay, but it's going to happen after it's done. And most of the public wouldn't really know until after the election because...
Well, I don't know if it would really be after the election because the campaign finance reports, the candidate would have to show that in their reports.
Right, but who reads those after you've seen a TV ad every 50 minutes on TV stations and a radio ad, newspaper ads?
Sure.
Direct mail, you know what I mean? It could get overwhelmed.
Sure.
What would be your thoughts about how would you determine if there was a problem or not? What would be enough to tell you, okay, we got to go back to $5,000?
Well, I don't know that we really would foresee a problem unless maybe someone would give $100,000 or something. I mean, that would be a substantial amount of money. But technically, a group could form 10 different political action committees, and each one could give $10,000 if they chose to do that. I mean, right now there are ways that they could give more than the allocated $5,000 if they chose to.
Well, that's a very good point.
And I did do some research on, at the request of Joe Sneevy from the Argus Leader, had asked me, what are some of the amounts that we've received? Have we even hit that 5,000? And in the reports that I looked at, we have not. I think the highest amount, if I'm remembering correctly, was $3,500, and otherwise it was usually $1,000, $1,500. So we did not even meet that 5,000 threshold.
Right, good. I think that makes a lot of sense. That if we had had a history of everybody maxing out at $5,000,
right,
then everybody's kind of probably
right,
antsy.
Yeah.
So I think you're right.
Yeah, we haven't had that, and we can certainly keep an eye on that. And of course, you receive the reports as a council as well, and would know if we start suddenly seeing huge amounts of money coming in. But typically, with our elections, our municipal elections, we just don't have those big contributions coming in from the political action committees.
Councilor Buck.
Thank you. That was the one bit of pushback that I had from constituents was about that unlimited piece, and so I did ask about that previous to the meeting. And it really goes back to the 2010 Supreme Court decision for Citizens United, where the Supreme Court has said companies and PACs and those kinds of groups you can't limit them. And so the state went away from it immediately to protect themselves. And so to me, then it becomes a matter of protection for the city. If we don't have that same sort of rule that is across the board, that's my concern. I don't like the idea either, but it makes me really nervous that we would put the city in that kind of jeopardy. That was where I kind of flipped and went, yeah, you're right. We need to do this. So that was my take on it.
A roll call vote, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Staggers.
Yeah, just a quick question. Lori, the limit of $1,000 for each individual.
Yes.
And that's also true with the state law, is that right?
Yes, it is. The only exception to that is family members and the candidate themselves. So yes, it's exactly, otherwise everything is exactly the same as the state. Spot on, each one.
And so in past elections, we usually probably have a lot of $1,000 max, don't
we? I would have to go back and look at that. I did not research the individual contributions. I don't think we have a lot that are at $1,000 from what I remember. They range anywhere from $50 up to $1,000, but I don't think I've really seen a page where every single contribution is $1,000. There's quite a range.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Kiley?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 30.
Item 30 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by revising Chapter 124, Vehicles for Hire pertaining to transportation network companies, and amending the title of Chapter 124 to read Transportation Services.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may, I'm going to
Counselor,
bring
go right
Jim
ahead.
David up to kind of go through a PowerPoint on this, just a little background on the ordinance. It's something that's been worked on now for 5 or 6 months minimum. I've involved other counselors, Jameson, Erickson, Rolfing, our city legal office, Keith Allenstein, licensing, Jamie Palmer, and we even had one person retire in the middle of this that we've been going on with it for so long. The ordinance, what it really does, from my perspective, is it fosters free enterprise. About a year and a half ago, we changed some of our, well, a good chunk of our vehicle for hire ordinance. And from working with our licensing and legal, there's been parts of it maybe that have been cumbersome for our free enterprise, for our vehicle for hire companies, that we are actually removing from the ordinance to make it easier for them to do business through the process of adding the vehicle or adding the transportation network companies. So Jim, please.
Good evening, Jim David, Legislative Operations Manager for the City Council. For final consideration tonight is a proposed ordinance that allows transportation network companies, or TNCs, to operate in the City of Sioux Falls. This proposal was, as Councilor Karski had stated, is under his direction and consultation with the industry, the City Attorney's Office, City Council members, and other municipalities. TNCs are business models that use an application. Typically, this app is on the phone and connects the passengers to the TNC driver. A driver uses his or her personal vehicle and drives when he or she wants to drive. Examples of national TNCs include companies such as Lyft, Sidecar, Uber, Wings, and Summon. If you look at the market penetration of the two largest TNCs, more than 150 companies in the United States have either Lyft, Uber, or both. In our region, this includes the cities of Ames, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, Fargo, Lincoln, Madison, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, Omaha, and St. Paul. Under this proposal, any TNC wanting to operate in the city must acquire a business license. The license application will require basic information such as trade names, business address, corporate information such as officer names. The license fee will be $1,500 annually. For comparison, a vehicle for hire business license is $50 for the first vehicle and $25 for each additional vehicle. And finally, just as the vehicle for hire, a TNC must provide proof of a sales tax license. The insurance requirements in this ordinance were agreed to by Uber and Lyft, the national insurance companies such as Allstate, Farmers Insurance, State Farm, USAA, and trade associations, National Association of Mutual Insurance Companies, American Insurance Association, and Property Casualty Insurers Association of America. $1 million in liability insurance will be required under this proposal when the driver is en route to pick up a passenger or carrying a passenger. The TNC drivers are recognized as independent contractors and not licensed by the city under this proposal. However, a TNC is required to have an independent third-party criminal and driving background check on each driver. The TNC driver must possess a valid driver's license, vehicle registration, and liability insurance. The TNC is required to provide a driver's license information to the city on a monthly basis. For comparison, I listed the criminal background check criteria for the proposed TNC driver and the existing vehicle for hire drivers, which come from the taxi, buses, and limousines. In every case, the TNC driver background checks background requirements are more stringent than the vehicle for hire driver is under current ordinance. To level the playing field for vehicle for hire companies, this ordinance removes the required annual certified mechanic inspections and the $1 million general liability insurance. The ordinance will maintain the $500,000 vehicle liability for taxis, buses, and limousines. The ordinance will also continue the requiring these companies to do self-inspections every 3,000 miles or 3 months. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Also, Councilor Karski.
Jim, thank you. Councilor Karski, thank you as well. Before I go to the council, is there anybody in the audience who wanted to speak to this item? Welcome. Oh, please, come forward, please. Yes, sir. Thank you. And if there's anybody else, just come forward. Sir, if you could just state your name, please, to the people of our town and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, we'd appreciate that. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Jared Atkinson. I'm the owner of Champion Chauffeur and Taxi. I do believe that there's a lot of advantages to the types of services that were just talked about. I think that the things that those types of services bring to a city, a lot of companies around here can't provide, billing ahead of time, using an app on an iPhone, stuff like that. However, I do want to state that a lot of the things that were just went through by that gentleman, especially towards the end there where it says, well, we're going to help out and make this easier for the local companies. But when you talk about taking away an annual inspection from a company, now, does that make it easier for me? Yes, I wish I could not have to get my vehicle, checked if that was possible and still get licensed. But think about what that's going to do to a lot of the vehicles that are driving around picking people up right now. I mean, that's going to make it to where these people aren't going to have their vehicles ready to go. I'm just telling you that right now, and I can guarantee you that, because people are going to shortchange the important things, which is having safe, reliable transportation. And I think that's definitely something to consider. I also know that the local businesses around Sioux Falls is kind of what makes Sioux Falls special, if you ask me. I take people who come in to the airport all the time. If you go to the Sioux Falls airport, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you guys travel, you always can get a taxi there. There's always a taxi in the line. So as of right now, like our main times during the week, we have plenty of taxis in Sioux Falls. There's over 20 companies. And the times when we really do need extra help is on those weekend nights. Like, I'm glad we had this meeting right after Halloween, because Saturday night, I don't think any town in America can have enough taxis. That's just my opinion. But I just want everything to be taken into consideration, especially the part brought up at the end there about not having to have the inspections. I think that's just not a good idea for the best thing for the people of Sioux Falls. Thank you.
Mr. Atkinson, welcome. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
This is why I didn't bring my children. Nettie Sanchez, council, I appreciate your time and your service tonight. I am a little bit ashamed that I've never been here. I've been an attorney for 12 years, and I love this community. I grew up here and have embarrassed my children here for years. But what I see here and what I saw when I first walked in made me want to come here tonight and address this issue. I saw a blessing take place. I saw real people supporting our community and wanting to be here. I am the first person that sees something on TV, the newest mascara, the new iPhone. I want all the coolest stuff. Uber, oh my gosh, everybody hears Uber and it's exciting and everybody has it, so I want it too. What I'm asking you to do is not move forward without more information. What you don't have and what we emailed you today. I do represent Sarah Willinga. She has a vehicle for hire service here in Sioux Falls. She came to me about a year ago and said, Nettie, I want to start this business. And there was all these hoops. And I realized that you have made some of those hoops go away. But some of those hoops and some of those regulations are in place for the most important reason that I can give you, and that's the safety of our community. You don't have to Google for 2 seconds, and you will have 70 incidents in the last 2.5 years of rapes, alleged harassment, murders, kidnappings, all of these things, because there's not monitoring. What if I have a younger sister that looks like me, and I've got 18 DUIs, and I am going to use her driver's license and her car. You don't know. Nobody ever meets me. Nobody ever takes my fingerprint and knows that this is the person that is driving my 21-year-old daughter around that just is getting picked up from the bar. Well, they say there's these regulations in place. They say that you're going to have the name of the driver. You're going to have the license plate. I don't know if you ever have gone to a bar and gotten drunk when you're 21 years old, but most of us aren't in the state of mind to take care of ourselves the way we need to. That's why we have the regulations in place for the vehicles for hire, for the vehicles, or for the taxi cabs. All I'm asking you is, let's make sure, I'm not saying free enterprise is good, isn't good. Bring Uber in, but let's regulate it. Let's make sure that we say, you know what, this is South Dakota. We're not gonna be Minnesota. We're not gonna be California. We value our community, and we're gonna make that extra step. We're gonna make you spend $60 or $90 to get your fingerprint at the police station so that I know who's driving my daughter, who's picking up my daughter. And everybody says, you know what, Nettie, there's background checks, and everybody that is dangerous out there is on file. I don't believe this to be true. I know that there's the first time that somebody commits a crime, and if you have a propensity to commit a crime, if you have any deviant behavior in your soul, this is the perfect opportunity to take advantage of our community. And I'm asking you, there's so many other issues, and I did forward, and I know I'm going over my time, but the gaps in insurance and the period 1 is so critical. We're putting my son argued this with me. He's 21 years old. He's like, Mom, I'd love to do this. I can earn extra money and I can do this. What's stopping my kid from sitting down at Wiley's waiting for somebody to pick him up or to beep him if anything? He's had 2-3 beers. I'm sure he's fine. Who's regulating that? Nobody. We have no checks and balances with this in place. We're just allowing this Uber cloud to profit off of our community. If we need the convenience of an app, let's create a convenience of an app. We have 50 companies in this town. Boston, not even a year, halfway through the year, their service is 22% drop in businesses for taxi drivers. And we have people in our community that have jumped through the hoops. My client pays $9,400 a year in commercial liability insurance to make sure who she picks up from the point that she goes is covered from end to end. Here, period 1, if you're not, there are warnings in 30 states by insurance companies that are saying, people, be aware, you are not covered. Once you turn on your app, once we start being available, and I collision, my health is not covered and my car is not covered under my policy. If we're gonna do this, let's do it in a way that we make sure that we get that gap insurance here, because USAA provides that. There are other companies that do provide that, but let's make sure that if we allow this company to profit in our community, and we need this here because we've got to have it and it's so great, then let's make sure we're keeping our community safe. Let's make sure we're keeping our drivers safe. 8 hours ago, there was a driver that was beat up by a drunk passenger. I just want things in place so we keep South Dakota the way that it is. It's our safety. Just give it some more time. Look into the information that I've given you. Thank you. I appreciate your time. And
Ms. Sanchez, very good job. Thank you. Thanks for staying. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Steve Hadorf. I got a phone call about 5 o'clock that this was going to be at the meeting tonight, so I'm not very well prepared, but I've got a few comments. First of all, isn't this a cute picture of me? But I pay this, and I buy them for 40 of my drivers. And so if you approve the Uber and Lyft, then these are going to go away, right? As a vehicle for hire, do I have to have this anymore? I still do, but Uber drivers don't. Okay, that's one issue. And Ms. Sanchez, I guess I'm really echoing a lot of the comments she made. I took a bunch of brief notes. I get weekly memos from some of the different limousine companies about Uber and the many problems they have. Basically, Uber is a modern day pyramid scheme with all of the drivers at the bottom and all the money funneling to the top. and they've got many problems throughout the country. And, you know, besides all of the crimes that she had mentioned, if you approve many more cars running around the city, it's going to be a race from point A to point B at bar time or closing time. It's going to be a racetrack. You're putting many more vehicles out on the street, and it's gonna get crazy. Somebody made the point about Uber being independent contractors. They're actually, in California, they are employees because they do not fit the model. So that's part of the many lawsuits going on, that they are actually employees, not independent contractors. Let's see. And once again, how they handle complaints. They've got no local control over handling complaints. I don't know if there's an office here in the city that will, if they are actually going to have an office, but if you've got a complaint, you have a poor ride, there's nobody to answer because it all goes to California. And another thing, their drivers have a burnout rate of about 60 to 90 days because they're not making any money. They make it sound wonderful, but the drivers are not making any money. So if you throw all the Uber and Lyft drivers out there, you're going to have, again, racing around is like throwing a food truck on every corner, unlicensed, or like having unlicensed insurance salesmen. Let's throw a bunch of insurance salesmen out there. Or real estate people. Let's throw a bunch of real estate people out there unlicensed and let them go at it. So it's kind of the same thing. But I agree you need to do a lot more research, and you could have kind of called some of the professional people in to help with the licensing or what you want to do. And once again, let's level the playing field. So if I've got to buy all of these, all of the other Uber drivers should have them also. So it just needs a lot more investigation before you proceed, I believe.
Mr. Adolph, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Brent Kinsley. I'm with Yellow Cab in Sioux Falls. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. In regards to Uber, I see you got our letter and have adjusted the proposed ordinance accordingly. It's a different copy than what I had received several weeks ago. I appreciate that. I know you're covering your flank, and I understand that. Here's it in a nutshell. I think that this business model of Uber is against South Dakota state law in that they're not required to have a commercial license. And in 1994, June 1st of 1994, I was contacted by the federal government and the state Department of Revenue that I must start carrying commercial plates on all my vehicles and also collecting sales tax, federal and state. To operate on a state and federal highway in commerce, you're required to have a commercial plate. And I wonder if the city attorney or anybody has looked into the South Dakota law regarding interstate or commerce on the highways, state highways and federal highways. As the two previous people have said, I believe truly that the city is shirking its responsibility of fully vetting drivers, and that you're relying on a third party that's not named. I know that everything on the internet and everything digital is truth. We all see that. But the real problem is that you're rushing. I know that it's a real nice package. It's a multi-billion-dollar company, and they have some nice candy out there for you guys to enjoy. And I think you're doing the city and the citizens of Sioux Falls, your constituents, a disservice by relying on an unknown entity to, it's all good to see the Mr. David's stats and statistics, and I kind of wonder when we started going to North Dakota and Nebraska to figure out what this city needs. They're not comparable. So I wish that the city council would take a step back. I know you're in a rush to get to the digital age, and maybe I am a dinosaur, but I operate legally. I collect taxes. 2% of those taxes go to the city. If you guys don't want them, I'll take them back. It's been very difficult and challenging. There's a history, as most of you know, goes back to 2013, and it started with our request to just change a few of the fields on the license application to make sure that everybody had a tax ID number. These drivers for Uber on their business model are called independent contractors, or independents. Now, I don't know how many of the council members are contractors or have hired independent contractors to cover a contract. But part of that is making sure that your subcontractors are legal, that they have a federal tax ID number and a state tax ID number. An Uber driver, although it's warm and fuzzy, it's digital, it's new, it's shiny, and it's great. But they should be, if they're gonna collect taxes, if they're gonna do a service that requires a state and federal tax, they should individually, not Uber, the company, the individual that is performing the service should have a tax ID number. And I challenge any of you to tell me why that you don't think that that's the case, and also that you are sure that these people can generate income on city, state, and federal highways without having a commercial plate. It's huge when you think about it. The responsibilities that go along with a commercial plate, there's, first of all, right off the bat, it cuts the blood level alcohol in half. A lot of people wouldn't, a night of drinking and the next morning, you could still be over if you're in a commercial vehicle, and we're very aware of that, in my company. So I really think that this has been a rush to everybody loves a new toy and a new gimmick, and it's, this is what it is. It's just you guys are letting a multi-billion-dollar company come in here and dictate how they're going to do business to you, and you cover them with ordinances. And I find that very, very disheartening, and that's about all I got. Thank you very much for your...
No, very good. Thank you, Brad. Great job. Thank you. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Las Pietruszkiewicz, AAA Taxi. I think Sioux Falls has the strongest law about the taxi. They work about 2 years to put together the law, and now they're going to change it, throw it away, because Uber wants to get in, and we have to allow them driving without a name, without a commercial plate. How they going to do at evening? Do you think the Uber main office will have enough clicks to put each driver where they have to go? I don't think so. They will be at the rush time, waiting by the bar with no name. People will go, "Are you the Uber?" "Yes, I'm Uber." "Come, let's go." They not related. They not registered this trip through the main office that they're going to collect money, and the main office going to pay the tax. They're going to collect the money, and they're not going to register anywhere, any sales tax, nothing. What if they don't have insurance at this time because they're not running with Uber application? They just pick up the customer from the door. What if they have accident? What the customer will sue? Who? Uber, or they will sue city first because city allowed Uber to be here. Another thing, the tax will never go to that sales tax office because the driver will say, oh, that's funny business. I can make extra bucks over the weekend. Nobody knows what I'm making. What if they have accident at that time? Why they don't have to have name on the door and we require it? I ask city council several times, can I have a magnetic? City council say no. So I put my name on the door, just for safety, like city council say, because some funny taxi say, I'm the taxi. Now is the permanent signage. They don't have it. And who knows where they're going? If they have a vehicle checked, if their vehicle is their vehicle or they just rented vehicle for weekend, go to rental car and hire and rent the vehicle and driving. Who will know? I'm Uber, but I'm driving my own. The rental vehicle was not covered with any insurance for public transportation. What if happen accident? Do you think city will walk away? I'm sure the customer will say, Uber isn't approved by the city. Let's go first, take the city to the court. I think that's a very, very too soon make the law and approve the law that Uber will be in Sioux Falls. As many cities right now in Europe who are fighting with Uber. One of the cities is Warsaw. I'm from Poland, and I know my son has lived there. And he said in Poland is big issue now in Warsaw with the Uber because so many is not regulated. And they, like I say, just for the weekend going to the bar and sitting, and they even put sign on the windows, Uber, Uber. Well, who knows this Uber? That's why I want to just say, consider that before go as a law. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Hi, Tally Kinsley with Yellow Cab. Well, I've been encouraged to write to the city council by some council members, and it appears that every time I do, it's like I'm just hand feeding you the ammunition to change the verbiage and use it against me and shut me down. I did write the letter and you've all gotten it, so I'm not going to rehash the whole letter out, which I was going to, but the part that I'm struggling with, what I'm reading right here, is this prearranged ride, which seems to be the term that you're using to disassociate Uber with the taxi business. Our rides are prearranged as well. Somebody calls us and asks us to come and pick them up. We can give them, they'll ask us how much is the fare going to be. By judged on the mile, I can give them a price quote of what the fare is going to be. The ride's prearranged. How is that different than, I mean, it's a cool concept to do it on your app and on your phone and everything, but the service is still a taxi service. It's still a taxi service. They're absolutely operating as a taxi service. And that's got me frustrated because it's just because it's done different. Instead of calling, you tap the app, but you're still getting a taxi service. It's the same service. And I agree with what they've said about the licensing and the taxi licenses, and the drivers should have all that because they are acting as a taxi service. And, you know, and I think it's ironic that we were talking about the cell phones and driving. Well, you have to have a cell phone to drive an Uber cab, and you're not supposed to be using that cell phone while you're driving, and that's how you do your job, is use the cell phone while you're driving. So I find that just a little ironic. Having Uber in town may be really exciting for the insurance companies, bringing them some business. You know, if Uber works directly and has their drivers get with the same insurance company, it makes their life a lot easier, and the insurance companies can acquire business with that, but it's detrimental to my business. So they are competing directly against us in our industry without having to follow the rules. And I would like to get with the times and go on the computer and have everything computerized, but because we have to pay all the taxes as an employer pays, Social Security, all that, I don't have as deep a pocket as Uber's does. I don't have any sponsors sponsoring me either. And so for me, it's just very frustrating to just reword things and make a classification up for them so that they don't fit into a vehicle for hire. They're vehicles for hire. They're operating as taxis, and I'd really like you to consider that before you vote on this, because there is a lot of, and that's the big argument. The reason that they're making so much money is because the argument about the whole independent contractor versus employer is, you know, it's a lot of money, and if Uber's paying the sales tax on it, then they're acting as the employer. You know, therefore, they should be paying into, they're telling the drivers what they can charge, that they can't take money, they can't take tips, this is how much it's going to be, this is the kind of car you have to have. They're operating as employers, as far as I'm concerned. I think that they should fall under the same rules, and that should be cleared up with the IRS issue before you issue them licenses and allow them to operate, when there's still so much controversy about that. It's not in the proper standing, I don't think, with the IRS, and until that gets resolved, I don't think you should be creating scenarios so that they are stand-aside companies or different from the cab companies, because they are operating as taxi service. So, thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Tally. Appreciate that. Folks, yes, please come forward. Before you speak, I just wanted to mention, again, certainly appreciate all the comments. For the most part, they've been unique comments, and we appreciate that. Just to kind of give the council a flavor, I mean, the comments that have been brought up, and we'd ask you that you not repeat those if at all possible, include the following. Just need more time for the council to decide on this. Talk about taxes collected, safety of the citizens, driver's experience and background. We've heard about insurance and licensing, potential litigation concerns, a lack of regulation of these companies. We talked about prearranged rides and what's the definition of that, cell phone use of the drivers, and then, yes, as Tally mentioned, the consistency of operating rules. Again, we welcome the comments. What you'd ask, though, is we'll keep that going, but if you could just not repeat things that we've already heard, we'd appreciate that. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Joy Schrader. I'm with Vintage Occasions Limo Service. And unfortunately, Mayor Mike, that one of the things I did want to just address was the reference to the ID card. And I know when we became licensed that this was probably the easiest piece to go to the police department. It was $35 to have my fingerprints taken and my picture taken. $35 isn't prohibitive for any of these Uber drivers to be required in order to be licensed through the city and have that protective measure in place. Then I want to touch on something that Wes mentioned as far as vehicles not requiring to have the markings. My daughter and I were actually in New York City, and she was so excited. She's a teenager, she wanted to use the app. Mom, can we please try this when we go back to the airport? I was like, okay. So she arranged a 4 a.m. pickup for us to head to the airport. Prepaid for it, and we went out to the curb, and there was a vehicle sitting at the curb. We're like, oh, okay, this is it. This is our ride. So we got in, and we weren't in the right vehicle. We weren't in an Uber vehicle because it's not marked. It doesn't have this, it doesn't have like a yellow cab sign. It doesn't have a vintage occasion sign. It doesn't have commercial plates. And we weren't in the Uber vehicle that we had requested. And so we were already on our way, and she received a communication then on her phone saying, well, where are you? I'm here for your pickup. Well, we weren't in the right car. So there is definitely some confusion there, and obviously anytime you go into a rental vehicle in New York City, you're taking your life into your own hands anyway, but the point being that not having any vehicle identification and not having those commercial plates is significant because there can be a lot of user confusion. So I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mayor and City Council.
Joy, good job. Thank you. Appreciate that as well. I'm glad you're back home. Folks, anybody, sir, we're done. No, sir, we're done. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council on this topic? Well, thank you. You did a great job. You covered a lot of ground. We certainly appreciate it. Now I'm going to put it in the council's hands. Council.
Move to approve, Karski.
Second.
And Erickson.
It's been a motion to approve the item by Councilor Karski, seconded by Councilor, I think was it Rolfing or Erickson?
Doesn't matter.
Councilor Erickson. Thank you, Councilor Erickson. Any discussion? Councilor Jamison.
I just wanted to bring up, there's several things that were mentioned by some of the drivers and business owners that's true, and some that is not. I tried to do my best to keep track, but one of the things that just can't be overlooked is that there's different opportunities here for everybody. The taxi cabs have the opportunity to go to an event where there's a lot of people who might need a cab and pick up a ride right there. The Uber drivers are not allowed to do that. The public who wants a cab, the reason we can't allow magnetic signs is because anybody could go and put them on a car and pretend to be a taxi cab. But the idea of painting your vehicle permanently to say that you're a cab, that signals to the public clearly a cab, it provides a safety mechanism. Uber is required to provide a sticker in their windows when they're driving so that people can identify the vehicle. They may or may not do that, but they're required to. When they order the ride, they get a picture of the car, they get a license plate number, they get a picture of the driver. So there's some assurances that the individual that's there in the vehicle is the right person. Now you might be inebriated and you can't figure that stuff out, but there are certain buyer beware issues that everybody needs to participate in. Uber isn't for everybody. A taxi cab does provide a different level of protection. I won't argue with that. I used Uber in a large metropolitan area, and it was a little bit like riding with gypsies. I won't argue. Cab companies, I think, just have a more solid feel about them that people should do with what they feel best about. I know there's a lot of things that probably other people could cover, but in this effort, through this committee and these people that worked on this, we really did work to try to make it as beneficial to all businesses to do more business in the community, open doors, provide opportunities for entrepreneurs. And I do agree that some of these Uber drivers will find out after a short time that it isn't profitable. And I think maybe the cycle will work itself out, but I just wanted to kind of correct some of the things I heard and at least address them in some way.
Councilor Jimson, thank you. Councilor Urbanbach.
Thank you. Question for either Jim or for Councilor Karski. Section 124.030, subsection B, the licensing specialist shall issue a license to each applicant that meets the requirements for a TNC, the annual permit fee of $1,500 to the city. Is that for, so if it were Uber or Lyft or whoever, that $1,500 is from them? It's not from the individual driver?
That's correct. It is from the TNC itself.
So can you give me a boiled down version of how much it would, if I want to start an Uber car business when this passes, how much is it going to cost me and what do I have to do as a driver?
Okay, sure. As a driver, if you want to be a driver for Uber, you have to apply to Uber. It's done electronically. They want your driver's license number. They're going to do a criminal background check on you. They want to see pictures of your vehicle. They want to know what kind of vehicle you have. It has to be a certain age, 10 years or less typically. They have different levels of Uber or other TNC services. It could go anywhere from the basic all the way up to, I believe they call it Uber X or Uber Black for limo service and that type of thing, if it's the type of vehicle you own. You are working when you want to work, and when you provide a ride to somebody, that person, I've used Uber in Phoenix twice this last year. I had to give it a try. When you get that ride from that Uber driver, you have a picture of the driver. You know the vehicle's coming. It's right on your phone. It's showing the vehicle driving right up to where you're at. As the driver, you just have to meet the requirements for Uber to accept you as a driver. And then in order to stay on as a driver, every time you give a ride to a person, they critique you. And if your vehicle isn't up to standard, whether it be cleanliness or safety or courteousness of the driver, you will lose your ability to accept rides from that company.
Counselor?
One comment then. I also have used Uber in a couple of different large cities, and I have to admit that my children ran the app, so that I haven't done that myself, but it seemed to work quite well. So my comment then to those folks who want to use it in Sioux Falls or who want to be Uber drivers in Sioux Falls is buyer beware. Buyer beware on either side, whether as a rider or as a driver. If you watched the news this morning, you saw what happened to an Uber driver this weekend when an inebriated rider in his backseat attacked him. And, you know, yeah, the guy is up on charges because they could trace him. But what we need to understand is that both as, if we're going in as a driver or if we're going in as a purchaser, to just buyer beware. And then the other thing I would say is that I do have one, just an editing remark that I would make before we pass the final wording. I'd rather do it in this reading than later. So.
Councilor Anderson Jr.
Thank you, Mayor. Could I have our city attorney, Mr. Allenstein, come up to answer a few questions, please?
Keith?
Thank you, sir. We discussed some of this on Friday, and one of the questions I asked was, are we creating a whole different level of service here for TNC in this ordinance?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent. I mean, there are certainly different rules that apply, as has been brought up. The city will not be licensing the individual drivers, and there are other differences. But yes, there will be a separate class, TNC classification for those mobile type of app services.
And if I may,
Please.
Mayor. In the presentation we got, says TNC drivers, third-party, local, and national criminal background checks. So Uber will be doing their own background checks on their employees, correct?
Well, as it was reworded last, I believe, to require that it be a third party, so Uber would contract with somebody else to do that, so they wouldn't be doing their own.
Is that information going to be provided to the city so the city knows who those drivers are?
Under the current wording of the ordinance, the Uber is required on a monthly basis to give us a list of drivers, states of issuance, and driver numbers.
But what about the background checks?
The background checks themselves, well, we would have the ability to do that ourselves if we needed to, but no, there is no requirement that they forward what they've done as far as their background checks.
Okay, and do we have any checks and balances to make sure that Uber drivers are following our rules of the city also? When these cars are not marked and everything, would they not have the ability to just go out and pick up people at that time too, as just a regular driver? I know Uber restricts that, but would they still be able to go out and, you know, once they're on the clock and that, you know, are they going to, well, I guess excuse me if you don't mind, Mayor, I want to try to make sure I get this right. They pick up a customer and they're already prepaid from point A to point B. And that customer then decides after they get to point B, they want to go to point Z. Is that something they have to recall back in, or is that something that the driver can just determine that they can take them themselves?
Well, they would be, it's, under Uber, they have to be a prearranged ride, so I suppose you could argue that that would be outside of that allowance there, but if they were, I don't know what Uber's model is to allow for that. If they have a mechanism to do that, I've never used Uber myself, but if they have a mechanism where plans change and somehow you can contact Uber as it's going on, then that would fit right back into the same.
Jim, do you know, and Counselor, I hope you don't mind, Keith is not an Uber expert, he's a legal expert. The Uber experts are probably these two counselors and maybe that gentleman right there, Mr. David.
Here?
Counselor.
I can give an answer to that. When I had my ride in Arizona, I talked to one of the drivers about how that worked, and he said that he had one person basically contract him, and they made several stops on their way, and he waited for him, and it was all racking up on his cell phone, and at the end of the ride, when it was all done, then he was charged for the entire ride plus the waiting time.
Counselor Jamison, could you also help answer that?
If I could just add a tidbit, I've used it often, and the idea is the driver will not get paid unless you reconnect. And the way that the driver gets connected is because he's the closest one. So no way around it, the rider would have to do another Uber. It would come up that this guy is right where he needs to be, he could pick you up right now, and then he gets the ride. You have to do it again. You couldn't, the driver couldn't do it without not getting paid, I guess.
I guess if I can continue at this time, Chair. Okay. I'll just make a statement that I'm not against Uber coming to Sioux Falls. What I'm against is that we took an ordinance that the Public Services Committee worked for 2 years with all these people sitting out here to create an ordinance that would cover TNCs. And then we're going to negotiate. This isn't a company just coming in that's going to work by our rules. This company came in and negotiated what they were going to allow us to see and what we weren't going to see. And to me, we're giving away some of the safety by not being able to see the background checks. We're only going to be given the names of drivers because we had to stand firm on that. And then we're giving them other options and availabilities to make it cheaper for them, but we don't make it cheaper for the people who have operated in our city for years. That's my problem with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Chair Anderson Jr. Appreciate that. Before I go back to Councilor Karski, did anybody else have any comments? Yes, Councilor Erickson.
I just have one quick question in regards to the question that was asked about the commercial license plates. If they're required, I don't know which attorney would like to address that. If that's an issue with the Uber drivers not having a commercial license plate, I do understand the employee concern because they're being told where to go. I get that, and that's more of the federal issue. They do have a sticker on them, and so they're not an unmarked vehicle, so to speak. They do have the marking on them. But my main question is just about the commercial license plate. I don't know, I'm sorry, I should have asked you in advance.
Jim or Keith? Jim?
I can honestly say that I was not asked to ever look into that, and I'm not aware of that requirement. I can say that there are very few federal. I mean, most of the state highways and stuff that come through Sioux Falls are not state highways. So we still have the interstate, and there are a few exceptions to that. So where it would apply, if it does, would be limited. But I have not researched that and was not made aware of that issue until I heard it tonight.
So within the city limits, they would not need that?
Well, the interstates run through city limits as well, but I'm not sure that requirement is accurate. I've not researched it at all.
Okay.
Very good. Councilor Karski, did you have another comment? You do. Councilor Karski.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Uber is like Walmart coming to town. Everybody's afraid of Walmart coming to town. They're going to drive us all out of business. And most of the time that doesn't happen. Most retailers figure out that they can adapt and they can compete, and life goes on. Regarding the incident with the drunk passenger, I was told that by an Uber driver that when you sign up as an Uber passenger, they do a background check on you as a passenger. They have all your information. They have your credit card information. The driver critiques the passenger. That drunk passenger has a lot of problems, and least of which will be he'll probably never be picked up by an Uber vehicle again. We have several separate or different classifications under our, what we are looking at changing from our vehicle for hire ordinance to our transportation services ordinance, whether it be limousines, vehicles for hire, passenger service vehicles, etc. There's several different classifications within this ordinance. 2 years ago, I sat on the Public Services Committee when we rewrote or looked at this entire ordinance piece by piece. I don't remember transportation network companies even being mentioned. It was very new. It's a very new industry. So they weren't even considered when we did most of this. The reason I brought this legislation to the council, not because I want to be an Uber driver. I've had a lot of people that came to me and said they do want to be an Uber driver. These are retired people. These are business people. These are citizens. And I looked at the ordinances the way it's written, and I figured that most people are going to be in violation of the ordinance if they did want to be an Uber driver. So the intent of this was to make it friendly to free enterprise, to allow people to be able to take part in the economy, so to speak. And that's the intent of all this. It's not to drive anybody out of business. It's not Walmart coming to town to push out the small mom and pop retailer. This is about allowing people to practice free enterprise within our system. So I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Councilor, thank you. Councilor Urbanbach.
I would just make a motion to amend, and this is just a housekeeping thing. It's a
Thank you,
friendly
Councilor.
amendment. It's in section 124.028, the first sentence, every person desiring a license to engage in a vehicle for hire business. Then I'm going to delete of a vehicle for hire.
Second.
It's been a motion to amend. It has been seconded. Does everybody in the council understand that? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Kiley,
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
The amendment passes. We now have an amended main motion. If there's no further discussion, a roll call. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Councilor Staggers.
Yes, I just have a quick question for
Please, sir.
Councilman Karski. And that is the $1,500. How did we come up with $1,500 for the city? That sounds like quite a bit of money.
And Councilor, a couple of ways we did it. Two things we looked at: what do other municipalities charge, and two, how do we keep the playing field as level as possible with our local companies? They are paying a lot less, but they do probably have extra expenses that the TNCs don't have, so that just to level the playing field.
Okay. Because I'm going to be voting for this proposed ordinance, but hopefully in the future, we might be able to take a look at the regular taxi cab companies to make sure that they're more on a level playing field. Anyway, that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Staggers, thank you. A roll call vote, please, on the amended main motion.
Council members Kiley,
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Anderson.
No.
Erickson.
Yes.
Erpenbach.
Yes.
Karski.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
That is passed 7-1. Thank you. Item 31.
Item 31 is a second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 6601 South Hemmingstone Trail from the RS Single Family Residential Suburban and RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban Districts to the REC Recreation District, petition number 3335, 2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Jason Bieber, representing Planning and Building Services. This is an application, and the owner is the City of Sioux Falls Parks and Rec Department. It's roughly 2.51 acres, and is located south of West 69th and east of South Louise Avenue. The purpose of this is to continue construction of the Prairie Hills West City Park that's located on the parcel.
Jason, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Folks, second reading. Anybody want to discuss this item with the council? Councilors?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Kylie.
It's been a motion to approve this item. It has been seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing? Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Thank you. Item 32.
Item 32 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at the southeast corner of East 41st Street and South Veterans Parkway from the RA2 apartment residential moderate density and C3 commercial community districts to the RA3 apartment residential high density district, petition number 3456, 2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant here is Chuck Moss. The owner is Valley Investments, LLC. It is located at the southeast corner of East 41st Street and South Veterans Parkway, just to the east of Harmondon Park. It's roughly 8.5 acres, and the purpose of this rezoning is to construct a multifamily apartment development.
Jason, thank you. Anybody want to discuss this item with the council? Councilors?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Karski.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, second by Councilor Karski. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing? Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Item 33.
Item 33 is an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 1600 to 1700 West Russell Street from the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar and C3 Commercial Community Districts to the C4 Commercial Regional District, petition number 3494, 2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant here is Lanny Aringer. The owner is DLC Holdings, LLC. This is located just north of our event center in the Sheraton Hotel. It's roughly 4.7 acres. It currently has the Badlands Pond development. They are looking to rezone this to C4, then to allow them to develop what's called a master sign plan for the whole project and kind of do the signage as a whole for the entire development.
Jason, thank you. And folks, Councilor Jamison is recusing himself from this item. He's left the room. Is there anybody in the audience who wants to speak to this item? No. Council, any comments?
Move for approval, Anderson.
Second, Erickson.
Councilor Anderson Jr. has made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Erickson. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Thank you. Item 34.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Councilor Anderson Jr. is going to recuse himself from this item. Item 34. Oh, you're leaving for the night. Make it a great night, sir. Thank you. Item 34.
Item 34 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 504 and 508 South Van Epps Avenue from the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District to the I-1 Light Industrial District, petition number 3499, 2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant here is Dave Brendy, is located at the corner of East Sioux Street and South Van Epps Avenue. There currently is 2 existing garages on the lot. The home that's located in the southwest corner of the property has recently been demolished. The applicant is looking at this rezoning to keep those existing garages and then use them for storage.
Thank you, Jason. Anybody want to speak to this item? Councilors?
Move approval, Rolfing.
Second, Kylie.
Councilor Rolfing's made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Erickson. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Item 35.
Item 35 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 3210 South Summit Avenue from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District, petition number 3500, 2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant here is Dick Dempster. The owner is Graham Automotive. Is located just north of the existing Graham Automotive dealership. It's roughly 0.17 acres, and the purpose of this rezoning is for them to construct additional sales and display parking areas for the Graham dealership. And they will be required a level C buffer yard on that north and east side, which will require a 20-foot setback, 2-foot berm, and 4-foot fence, and 40 units of landscaping for every 100 lineal feet.
Jason, thank you. Did anybody want to speak to this item? Councilors?
Move approval, Rolfing.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Rolfing's made a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Jameson.
Jason, just for my own education, if the applicant wanted to build a building on the new property, I mean, could they?
They would be allowed to build a building on that new property. However, the buffer yard then increases by 10 feet, so it would go from 20 to 30 and really would make that lot pretty worthless for them. Parking is really the only thing that they can get on there to kind of make it work.
If they were to tear down the building that they already have and built a new one, they could convert that other part to parking. I mean, they still have.
Yep, that's what they're proposing to do. If you look at the site plan here, you see the new hatched building that they're looking at constructing. And even with them constructing that new building, zoning does require them to even do a buffer yard on the north side of the existing parking lot. That's kind of that blue hatched outline there. So they are looking at constructing a new building, but they are keeping it to similar location of the existing one.
If I could, under the C2 zoning, is that building size then?
They'd have to be less than 25,000 square feet, and it looks pretty small. I would say it's 5,000 or so. There's just not a lot of room on there to build anything too big. So.
Thank you.
Councilor Erickson.
With the building, is it right on the property line, or what is the
Nope,
buffer?
that blue line there would be their buffer yard line. The property line would be, as you can see the building, and then you kind of see the existing cars on the overhead, or the aerial, excuse me. And then the property line is the blue line to the north of that. They're showing kind of the buffer yard.
I mean, behind the building there, to the east.
That is on the property line because the east there is zoned commercial already.
So they don't have to give any...
They don't have to do a buffer yard or setback commercial against commercial like that.
Because they own it?
No, they don't own it. It's Lucan Memorial is there. It's just a similar use, so they don't have to provide a buffer yard. And setbacks are 0 foot in commercial unless you're adjacent to a residential.
Gotcha, thanks.
Council, good questions. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Kiley?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That has passed 7-0. Item 36.
Item 36 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at northeast corner of West 22nd Street and South Ellis Road from the LW Live Work District to the RS Single Family Residential Suburban and RD2 Townhome Residential Suburban Districts, petition number 3504, 2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant here is Chuck Point, representing Ronnie Companies. It is located at that northeast corner of 22nd and South Ellis Road. It's roughly 30-some acres in size. It is roughly 14.9 acres in size, and the purpose of this is to construct a townhome, a twin home, and single-family residential development on those 14 acres.
Jason, thank you. Did anybody in the audience want to speak to this item? Council?
Move to approve, Karski.
Second, Erickson.
Kiley.
Councilor Karski's been a motion to approve this item, seconded by Councilor Kiley. If there is no further discussion, roll call vote. Oh, yes, Councilor Erickson, please.
Just one quick question, not necessarily related to the rezone, but Ellis is only 2-lane road. Is there any plan in the future to, I know that the traffic is quite heavy on that road, and I just was curious if there's any plan to rezone any of that, well, some of the, or not rezone, but widen that if there's nothing there right now.
Sure, there is plans to widen Ellis Road. I'm not sure if it's in our CIP, to be honest with you, but I believe it will go to a 4-lane divided highway similar to some of our other major arterials. I'm just not sure when that's specifically scheduled for.
And I apologize for asking that now because I know it's not not necessarily the right time, but we have so much the city have so much development on both sides of that, really quite close to the 2 lanes now, and there's commercial land on some with some of the restaurant bars that are going in over there, as well as other properties, and then some further south those back up really close. So I was just curious. I know it was asked of me last week by a constituent, and
I would say it's going to be happening sooner than later. I know they've done the intersection of 41st and Ellis, and then done a little bit north and south, and so I think that's going to continue. I'm just not sure what year it's scheduled for.
Thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 37.
Item 37 is a second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at southwest corner of West 53rd Street and South Louise Avenue from the O Office District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District. Petition number 3510-2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The applicant here is Justin Laird, and the owner is Bob Winkles. It is located at the southwest corner of 53rd Street and South Louise Avenue. The size is roughly 0.64 acres, and the purpose of this is for future commercial development. I believe they're looking to try and get a fast food restaurant. Their access will be strictly restricted, to 53rd Street. They will not have access on Louise Avenue.
Jason, thank you. Did anybody want to speak to this item? Councilors?
Move to approve. Karski.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Karski's made a motion to approve this item, second by Councilor Rolfing. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Item 38.
Item 38 is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Greystone Heights.
The applicant here is Dave Gibbon. It's located at that southwest corner of 57th Street and South Sycamore Avenue. It's roughly 36.56 acres in size. And the purpose of this preliminary subdivision plan is to construct commercial on the northern part of it, and then construct multifamily residential, and then start transitioning down to, I believe, some twin home and townhome uses as you start heading south.
Councilor, thank you, Jace. Anybody want to speak to this item? Councilors?
Move for approval. Kylie?
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Kylie made a motion to approve this resolution, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. A roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Council, thank you. 39, please.
Item 39 is a report of the October 29, 2015 Notice of Transfer of Appropriations within Major Organizational Units.
Thank you. Item 40.
Item 40 is a reconsideration from the October 19, 2015 City Council meeting, second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property southwest of Great Bear Recreation Area from the AG Agricultural District to the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District, petition number 3271, 2015, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls, and to set the hearing date and second reading for Tuesday, November 17, 2015, at 7:00 p.m. Planning Commission recommends approval.
The Planning and Building Services is requesting a reconsideration of this item, as Tamara read into the record. We are requesting to reconsider this at the November 17th meeting. Staff and the developers, along with some city council members, have worked and made some significant progress on an alternative second access plan that we think will provide the neighbors, the developers, and hopefully the city council with the answers we've kind of been looking for this past year on this specific item.
Good work. Jason? Yes, Councilor Rolfing.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we reconsider and set the hearing date and second reading for Tuesday, November 17th.
Second, Erickson.
Councilor Rolfing has made a motion to reconsider and set the hearing date and second reading for Tuesday, November 17th, seconded by Councilor Erickson. Very good. Yes, Councilor Kylie.
Quite frankly, I do welcome this opportunity to revisit this particular item. I would just say to the parties involved, please work things out in the next 2 weeks that we can move this along. Otherwise, we'll be right back where we were here a few weeks ago.
Councilor Cotty, thank you. Good message, and I'm sure Jason will relay it as well. A roll call on the reconsideration, or roll call vote on the reconsideration. Thank you.
Council members Kylie?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Erpenbach?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Karski?
Yes.
That is passed 7-0. Council, thank you. If there's no new business, would anybody want to adjourn this meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Second, Erpenbach.
Thank you. Councilor Karski's made a motion to adjourn this meeting, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Sioux Falls, make it a great, great night.